Well, what do we have here? The show that's nearly a decade in the making, finally here for your enjoyment. Welcome to The NAG Show. In this week's episode, we talk Nintendo news, Sea of Thieves, Intel's 12th gen architecture, and dare I say it, Elden Ring. Let's get into it. Logo. Over the last few weeks, I've loved playing with Intel's new 12th gen tech, as well as DDR5 and the new mid-range GeForce RTX 3050 graphics card from MSI. The hardware is great for gamers like me who love mid-range hardware and getting real value for money with every purchase. You can read my full review on the test kit on NAG, but the short of it is we're in for a wild ride in the coming years. The technology is really fantastic. Link to the review in the description below. I've also asked Nao to give us some more insights into the new 12th gen technology. How's it, Nao? Thank you so much for your time. How are you doing?
All right, and you, man?
Lekker, man, lekker. So 12th gen and DDR5 is the latest and greatest tech on the horizon. It's here, basically. What can we expect from this new technology?
Oh, well, in comparison to 11th gen and all the things that came before, better power consumption, significantly better performance, the clock, so IPC, what they call it, significantly improved, and a better platform. So we have native support now for Thunderbolt 4 and whatnot. And DDR5, which is the big selling point, or rather a big change in technology in this generation. DDR5 is much faster, scales better with multiple cores and so forth. So it is overall a better platform, the way forward, essentially.
I mean, the last time we saw an upgrade in memory of this scale was it 2014, 2016? What year? It was a couple of years ago.
I think it was 2014. A long time ago. I think it was actually 2012 with X99, because that was the first DDR4 chipset that we had, or platform. So yeah, it should have been around then, 2013. I can't even remember, but it's been a while. We've had DDR4 for nearly 10 years. Hard to believe, but yeah, it's true.
That's crazy. So a jump in technology like this, going to the next revision of the technology, I mean, you mentioned some of the features that is in it, but what can we expect? I mean, for people that like us who create video and play games, I mean, faster memory just equates to faster performance with less reliance on CPU and graphics card.
Yes. So what's essentially happening with DDR5 is that it's as I said, a way forward from the traditional DDR methods that we used to use before. Because what was happening with DDR4 is that it wasn't scaling as well as it could with multiple cores. The more cores you were adding, DDR4 hit a limit in the bandwidth that each core could have, and there was no way to fix that. So DDR5 introduces some independence in how memory is read, how it's written, just basic access to memory, and allows bandwidth to scale with the number of cores. We are still in the early stages, but DDR5 is definitely a necessary way forward. Because with DDR4, even though let's say you could get to DDR4 5000, which we do have, with kits like that, and even 5333, which is higher than some DDR5 kits. The issue is that you are not able to utilize all of that bandwidth. So we're starting to get into diminishing returns. That's why we need to go with DDR5. And DDR5 consumes less power. It's the most direct way of reducing power requirements. That's obviously needed for mobile devices, ultra portables, and so forth. So you'll start to see DDR5 not only in desktops, but in everything else.
Yeah, as technology scales, I mean, with the chips getting smaller, essentially, heat is becoming an issue, and everything needs to run on lower power. Now, in terms of the Intel 12th gen, one of the big features on that is the way that Intel have kind of reworked the way that the core structure works. So you've got performance cores, and I forget the other one's name now. It's P&E cores, I think. It's got these two types of cores that it's using. Tell us a little bit about that.
So they've broken up how cores are distributed essentially on the CPU into E cores, which are efficiency cores, perhaps if you want to go with that. And the other ones are P cores, which are performance cores. So on something like the most high-end 12900K or 12900KS, you're going to get 8 E cores and, of course, 8 P cores. But the P cores are much larger. In fact, 4 of the E cores actually fit into the same die area as 1 P core. So performance per millimeter is very high on the E cores. In fact, they're actually just as efficient as the cores you have on your 10th gen core CPUs, but they are significantly smaller and obviously much more power efficient. So these are going to be very important for the server platforms, for high-end desktop, and basically for mobile platforms as well, where Intel is concerned. And the P cores is where all the performance gains are, essentially. And that's for the gamers and whatnot. You are really going to be interested or vested in the P cores more so than me.
So with me now is Tim from the NintendoGamer.co.za, and this is the man to talk to about everything and anything Nintendo. How's it, Tim? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good, man, good. So rumors are rife, or shall I say, have been knocking on our door about the Switch 2 for a very long time. What can you tell us about the latest bout of this?
Well, I think with the Steamdeck launching and the critical sort of success that it seems to have had, I think that was one of the reasons that these Switch rumors came up again. But also there was an NVIDIA leak that supposedly had the same graphics API folder that was used for the original Switch, but this time with the number 2, so people automatically assumed that means Switch 2. So again, the Pro rumor is coming out again, and I guess it's just something people have been asking for, wondering about for a long time, whether the Switch will get an upgraded console. They thought it was happening last year. The Switch OLED came out. That sort of had a bit of a mixed reaction. So I think that's probably the reason that it's popped up again.
What will a Switch 2 give us in terms of new technology?
Yeah, it's a strange one. I wrote about this week, and I was thinking about it, and I was wondering, sometimes when Nintendo goes out the box, that we got things like the Wii, we got things like the Switch, maybe even back when we got the GameCube. They really can think out the box and give us a really cool new console, and it really is amazing. But sometimes they go a little bit too far, and it's not what people want. We think about the Wii U as the most recent example. So personally, I think the new Switch, whatever it's going to be, is actually going to be very much the same as what the current Switch is, just with more graphical power, more processing power, just so that it can keep up with stuff like the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. Although, saying that, I'm not even sure about that, because the Switch hasn't been competing with those two consoles for, it hasn't been competing with Sony and with Xbox for a long time. So they sort of have their own audience. So I think if it is something like that, I don't think they're going to go crazy. I think their creativity now is focused on software, and that's why we've gotten things like Labo, we've got Ring Fit Adventure. Peripherals and software is where Nintendo really flexes their creativity over the last few years. So I think if we are getting a Switch, it's just going to be a power upgrade, really.
In light of the Steam Deck that you mentioned, that is probably going to be the biggest competitor just from a consumer point of view. Like, what portable do we want to buy? Do you think it's going to pose a big threat for Nintendo's portable mobile gaming efforts?
I think it's such a difficult one. If you read the Steam reviews, I think there was not one Steam review that I read that didn't mention the Switch. So it's obviously in the same conversation. People are obviously thinking about it together. The price point, I'm not sure, especially when you're talking about a local market. We don't even know if we're getting the Steam Deck. I hope we are, but we don't even know if it's going to come here. How big the Switch market is in South Africa is also arguable. In the whole world, yes, I think there might be something there, especially if it becomes easy to get. I think once it becomes ubiquitous that you can easily go and purchase a Steam Deck, then I think definitely then Switch is going to have to worry about it. But for now, the software that Nintendo produces, the fact that they're so huge, especially in places like America, Europe, and Japan, mean that for now the Steam Deck is so far behind. Although having your PC games so easily accessible, and it seemingly works so well, I definitely think it's going to become part of the conversation if it isn't already.
Yeah, I agree. But I would also want to add to that and say they probably aren't going to compete with each other for the most part. The Steam Deck is a much more... Like PC gamers would probably flock to that, somebody who's au fait and wants access to their Steam library. A Nintendo gamer is still a very specific gamer. It's they want specific titles. They have bought into that ecosystem, and so I think there will be some overlap, but I do think they will stand independently from each other.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think anybody that's just got a Switch because they love Nintendo is still just going to keep the Switch, or whatever the new Switch is, the Switch Pro, the Switch XL, whatever they're going to call it. But anybody that maybe like you and me, that we've got a Switch, but we also enjoy other consoles, the Steam Deck starts to look a lot more appealing then, I think. But like you said, it's a very different audience when we're talking about the majority of Switch players, I think.
Yeah, totally agreed. Well, Tim, we'll chat about this, I'm sure, a lot in the future. And for anybody out there who hasn't seen Tim's column, please check out nag.co.za for all of the juicy goodness. And if you want more from Tim, check out his website at thenintendogamer.co.za. Tim, thank you so much for your time.
No, awesome.
Hey, Kelli, so you've been talking to me about Sea of Thieves, and I've been seeing some of the buzz around it on the internet. What is the fuss around with this game?
To be honest, there's just so much, there is honestly just so much for the game that it covers everyone. If you want something chilled, you're going to get something chilled. If you want something real, just getting that adrenaline pumping, you're getting it. You might have to hunt a little bit for it here and there, or it'll just come to you. But otherwise, no, it's literally for everyone. There's just so much to do with the game, and there's constant content updates coming. There's seasons now. It's just phenomenal. This game is incredible.
Is it just a pirate ship game? I mean, I jumped into it for about 5 minutes, but it was a pretty insane tutorial. Or maybe it was just a late night and I had too many beers. But yeah, I haven't been back to it yet.
Look, so it is kind of a hard game to get into, if I'm honest, as somebody that is new, and I love working with the new players because I understand, I know it can be a little bit scary in the sense of there's merchants and there's this and there's voyages but yeah, basically the concept is that you're a pirate. Mm-hmm. You've got the choice to either play dirty in the sense of really play as a pirate and go and steal everything from everyone and all of their hard work, because trust me, it takes a while. Or otherwise, like I said earlier, you could just take it really chilled, go fishing. You can do voyages, do the tall tales, which is your story-based driven piece of the game. But otherwise, there is just so much option. There's also events, which also focuses a little bit on story in the sense of like Flameheart, who he is. You're fighting him directly, and he's a huge part of the story. But in general, there's just so much, with the merchants, there's the pirate code, which you're focusing on. And with the merchants, there's your three main merchants that are on your outposts and stuff like that, that you would sell to, which believe in the pirate code. And then you get your reapers, which is technically Flameheart.
Yeah.
He hates everything pirate. So if you had to work with anything pirate, anything like Merchant Alliance, Order of Souls or Gold Hoarders or anything, he hates it. So he wants to destroy anything and anyone that believes in this pirate code. But which is perfect. I mean, it gives you literally so many different forms of gameplay and different types of like hype for the game, which is just, like I said earlier, incredible. I love it.
So what are the top 3 tips that you can give to somebody who wants to get into this game?
So top 3 tips, I would have to say, you do get people that are very sneaky as pirates. So there is, for instance, a new emote. Well, it's not that new, but basically what they're doing is they're giving the ability to everyone to actually buy this emote now, which is very dangerous. But basically this emote in this game lets you become a barrel, a normal stock barrel on your ship. And so look for your sneakers. That's one thing, because the pirates that do love to focus on like reapers and stuff like that, they do sneak on your ship. They will fall asleep right next to your cannons and you have no clue. So keep an eye out for borders. Definitely number 1. Number 2, hide your loot. So a lot of players, especially a lot of the new players, they love to gather all this loot and whatever, and then keep it just on the main ship, on the top of the ship. And I'm like, no, you've made yourself a torch. Like, you're standing out like a sore thumb because everything glows. Everything's so shiny, and if there's loot on the floor, it's got a glint. Glitter, a shiny glint. So another tip I can give is just put everything below deck. Let people not see that. You will get hunted if you do that.
Can you bury your own treasure somewhere?
You can. That's a new thing in the game. So
That's
it's
what I wanna
really
do.
cool. So you can seriously mess with players at the same time. So one of the new features of the game is that you bury your treasure. So it can be anything. It can be an empty treasure chest. You know, so you can really mess with a player and be like, cool, I'm going to bury this empty treasure chest. And then on the outpost, almost every every outpost, as well as the sea post, they've got this quest board. And if you go and collect this map from this quest board, it's everything that pirates have hidden. So if I go and hide, like I said, an empty treasure chest, it'll pop up on this quest board for another pirate to go and find. But where it gets sneaky is if you go and you get kegs in the game, massive ass bombs. And if you go and bury that, it pops up on the quest board and they go and they smack it. As they smack it, they die. So you can seriously have some fun. You can play a bit dirty as well. But no, so it's really cool. So you can hide your stuff. Also, the hiding is amazing as well, because what happens is while you're busy with events and just busy with whatever you decide to do that day, you do get people rolling up on you. So if you've got any treasure that you really, really, really don't want to lose, just in case, I suggest bury it. Because then at least you know where it is, but no one else does. Unless they've magically found that quest. But no, I must say the burying was one of the best features that they brought in the sense of messing with each other. But no, it's a great feature, you know.
And then
it's really fun to be able to do it.
And then your third tip.
The third tip I'd have to say. So when I first started playing Sea of Thieves, we sadly weren't as privileged, but we had to go and on each outpost there's barrels that you have to loot to be able to get your ship all nice and stocked up, you know. And the biggest tip that I can give you is what you can do now is if you go to the Merchants Alliance lady, you can actually buy a storage crate. So before we used to, back in the day, sounds so old, but back in the day, we used to literally collect things one by one, and there's certain things like wood you can only carry 5, you know, food you can only carry 5. So it was constantly running up and down to the point of you sitting there for like half an hour looting just to stock up your ship. Where now with the storage crate, you can literally hold it, walk up to the barrel and say take.
Okay, that's cool.
So biggest tip, get yourself a storage crate. It saves lives.
Wise words from the master herself. Thank you, Kelli, for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was so cool.
So, Marco, Elden Ring has taken the world by storm, and seemingly everybody's playing this game. What is all this fuss about?
Well, I don't know. You know, it's one of these games. So I don't know if you remember the original Dark Souls game that released way back in the day from Software, the studio that made it. They had this project that they were like, we're going to make a whole new genre called Souls-like, where it's going to be hardcore RPG, where it's not going to hold your hand. You're going to go in as like a defenseless person and get wrecked by like bosses and die and fall off ledges, and basically you're going to get thrown into this world that everything wants to kill you. Literally everything wants to kill you. Like you would be walking past a tree and it would be like, oh, actually I'm an enemy. I'm gonna hit you and you're gonna die. So they Dark Souls was a massive success. Obviously there was 3 games that came out, and then Elden Ring is now sort of like they reinvented the genre basically by proving that you can have an open world game that is like just as a masterpiece as Dark Souls. So I mean that's why it's a big deal, because they've basically nobody thought they could get better than like Dark Souls. You know, Dark Souls 3 was magnificent. And then they came and they were like, no, well, we're going to make it an open world now. And it was like, okay, well, you know, open world games are like empty and kind of boring and stuff, but it's the complete opposite. I mean, you can spend like 100 hours exploring this magnificent world, and everything that made Dark Souls so great has been like fleshed out in this world to the point where, you know, every little corner has like a boss and like a little secret to find and stuff. And I think that's why it's so great. And it's also like a real gamer's game. You know, it's not, you know, there's no microtransactions, there's no nonsense here, there's no DLC, there's no store. You know, you just go in, you pay your set amount of money, you know that this is the experience you're going to have for the next like 100 hours or so.
And I mean, have you been sucked into this thing? Have you spent a couple of days
I
playing
have,
this
yeah.
game?
And I spent way too long. Like I was playing the beginning part of the game, and like you go to the Stormvale castle, and I promise you, I spent like 30 hours just playing the first opening part of the game because there's so much to do. And as soon as you think, oh well, I've killed this boss, I'm going to go into this next part of the map. Then I looked down and I put my camera down. I was like, but what is that down there? There's a whole portion under the castle that I didn't find. So I made it my mission to get down there. And then, I mean, there was a boss there to fight, and there were items to find, and there was a whole quest line and stuff. So, and you know, the thing is, the game doesn't tell you where to go. You literally have to, you know, it's up to you. You could finish the game quickly, but you can also just like stay. And I don't ride a horse because I feel like the horse also speeds things up way too much. I prefer to go on foot. I only ride a horse after I've explored the area for the first time. So I prefer to go on foot. So that takes a while as well because you're also like super slow when you're running, and the game is massive. So like it's made to get on a horseback and drive around. But I just feel like you also waste a lot of time. You miss stuff, you know. You're also not absorbing the world as much as you should be when you on the back of a horse.
Now, would you say this game is for anybody? I mean, should anybody just kind of jump in and see if they like this? I mean, what would be your, recommendation?
It's not easy, hey. It's a tough game. It is the most accessible Souls-like game that they've made. So there's summoning pools, so you can like put your name down and people can summon you for a specific area. That's cool. And then there's ways to refill your health flasks now where there wasn't before. Like if you kill a group of enemies or you kill a specific enemy, you can refill your health vials. So it is the most accessible Dark Souls-ish game to date, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's like a game that anybody will just like pick up and play. I mean, it's tough. It's gonna, you know, you will die a few times, but that's the fun of things, I guess. You know, it's really the director of the game says, the sooner you embrace death, the better the experience will be. And that's the thing. Like if you don't die, and if you're trying not to die, then you're not gonna have fun here. The point is to die and learn. Hey, wow, the boss killed me by using that attack. When do I time my dodge or my block for that attack? So you learn the more you die.
Nice. Actually sounds like more of an interesting game now that you've explained it like that.
No, I feel like everybody should play it. Even if you feel like it's a bit daunting and overwhelming, it will teach you not only how to be a better gamer, but also just to kind of respect the genre a bit more, because a lot of people see it and they're like, well, you know, this is not my thing. And I said that when the first Demon Souls came out, I was like, no, this game is not mine. But I took my time, and I really, you know, I'm a massive fan now because I gave it like the time of day.
Nice, excellent. Well, I kind of look forward to playing it now. Thanks for your time, Mark. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks so much, hey?
Now, this week I asked our readers who has upgraded to Windows 11. I've been sitting on the fence about the upgrade for a while now, and it seems the consensus is that the gamers are liking it. Carl Mayer says, I'm on a Ryzen system 5600X and have Windows 11. Been gaming on it for a while now and haven't had any major issues. Only one that comes to mind is the latest patch that changed my internet configuration to IPv6 and kept my internet at 100 over 100. But a simple change to IPv4 fixes this to whatever your true line speed is. Thanks for that tip, Carl. We'll keep it in mind. Craig Potter says, I did a fresh install of Windows 11 when upgrading to NVMe. He says it's running great. Game performance has no noticeable difference. Explorer and the start menu can sometimes be a bit laggy and wonky, but overall he hasn't looked back. Neville Rudd says he'll stay with Windows 10 until a game that requires Windows 11 comes out. Vernon says, nah bro, riding with Windows 10 until the very end. Had XP until 2012. Well, Vernon, I salute you, sir. Keep fighting that fight. What is your recommendation? Have you upgraded your gaming rig yet? Let us know in the comments below. And that's it for the first NAG show. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to be a part of the show and give us a review on a game you think you've earned the right to talk about, then drop us a comment and you could be invited on the show. You can also send us a voice note or video comment to our WhatsApp number and you could be featured on an upcoming episode. Number on the screen now. Until next week, remember to keep your Steam wallet in a positive balance. The next Steam sale is always around the corner. NAG out. Oh, you're still around. Well, for your loyalty, I'm going to give you one clue to a secret item hidden somewhere in the show, and you could win a 200 Rand voucher. See if you can spot the badger in a specific timestamp in the show. Yes, the badger is back, baby. So if you can spot him, you can win a 200 Rand Steam voucher if I pick your name. Be creative. Leave a comment to say that you have spotted the badger without anybody else knowing that you know what the timestamp is. And you could be picked to give us that timestamp where the badger is in this video. Good luck.